Your kid just spent 47 minutes explaining their Minecraft world, the tragic backstory of a sheep named Gerald, the complex mob hierarchy, every single block they placed. You nodded. But let's be honest, your brain checked out around minute 3. Here's the thing they weren't asking for. They were checking if you actually like them. Because kids can survive rules they don't like, but not parents who seem bored by them. Not just love them. That's in the parenting contract. Like them, as in enjoy their company. Want to be around them. And here's the thing. Most parents don't realize they're failing this test every single day. The universal currency. You see, love is obligatory. It comes with the birth certificate, like a biological terms and condition agreement you can't uncheck. Like is voluntary. Like is a choice. Like says, I'd hang out with you even if we weren't related and you weren't living in my house rent-free while complaining about the Wi-Fi speed. Watch a kid's face when their parent laughs at their joke. Really laughs. Not that polite parent chuckle that sounds like a manufactured printer. Their entire being lights up. Because in that moment, they're not your obligation. They're your entertainment. They made you happy by being themselves. Sociometer theory says that self-esteem reflects how desirable we think others find us. When kids believe their parents genuinely like them, beyond just a biological obligation, their brain learns they're worth choosing. That belief shapes everything. But here's where most parents mess this up in ways they never see coming. The phone test. Your kid walks into the kitchen while you're scrolling Instagram. They start talking. You keep scrolling. They stop talking. You didn't notice? That's the test. And you just failed it. Kids see you scroll through 300 photos of other people's food but can't sit through their story about recess. They watch you respond to work emails in 0.3 seconds but take 3 days to look at their drawing. Your attention is currency, and they're tracking the exchange rate. This tiny act is what separates the parents who get called for advice from the parent who gets texted when they need money. There's research on technoference that shows when parents use screens around their children, interactions drop and parents become less responsive. In fact, a Pew Research study found that 68% of parents are at least sometimes distracted by their smartphone when spending time with their children. Where your eyes are sends a message about what's important. And right now, your eyes are saying TikTok's more interesting than they are. The enthusiasm gap. But it's not just about putting your phone down. It's about what happens when you actually engage. Your kid mentions they learned to make slime that glows in the dark. You respond with, "That's nice, honey," while mentally calculating mortgage payments. What they heard? "Your interests bore me, but I'm too polite to say it." Parents show up for the big stuff, recitals, games, parent-teacher conferences, but they sleepwalk through the Gerald stories, the glow-in-the-dark slime, the 40-minute explanation of why their favorite YouTuber is actually a genius. Kids are enthusiasm detectives. They know the difference between genuine interest and parental autopilot. Real interest has follow-up questions. How's it glow? Can you make it different colors? Is this why the kitchen looks like a unicorn exploded? Research from Cambridge found that when parents respond to their children's needs and emotions early in life, closeness develops. And that closeness predicts kindness and helpfulness years later. This is where the quiet math starts. The math that determines whether they call you at 25 or text you on mandatory holidays. The comparison trap. Now, here's where things get even more damaging, because while ignoring their interests pushes them away, the next mistake actively tells them they're not good enough. Your kid quits piano after 3 months. You sigh. And in that very second, your kid just filed that sigh under evidence I'm disappointing. Why can't you be more like your cousin Bradley? He plays 3 instruments and speaks Mandarin. Meanwhile, your kid's thinking, because I'm not Bradley, I'm Jake, and my superpower is making armpit farts sound like Beethoven's Fifth. I used to compare my kids' achievements to others, thinking it would push them to be better. What I didn't realize was that I was teaching them they weren't enough, and they stopped trying to show me who they actually were because they knew I was looking for someone else. Your kid has a catalog of every sigh when they quit piano, every excited voice when you talk about the neighbor's kid who got into Yale. They're keeping score, and the score says, "I'm not the kid you ordered." Research shows that when parents compare their children to others, those comparisons directly diminish their self-worth. Your kid internalizes the social comparison behaviors you exhibit. This becomes the voice in their head later. I'm only worth loving if I'm someone else. By the way, I know this all sounds like common sense, but if you're sitting there thinking, show me the receipts, all the research studies are linked in the description, because apparently my word isn't good enough for you people. The judgment-free zone. So, you've stopped comparing them, you're putting your phone down, you're showing enthusiasm, but there's still something that can shut down communication instantly. Your kid walks in and says, "Jeremy ate a bug at lunch." You immediately launch into a presentation about protein sources in different cultures and why we don't eat insects in Western society, and they're gone. Mentally, they left the room. Kids are constantly running risk assessments. Can I tell mom about this without her turning it into a life lesson? This doesn't mean no boundaries. It means creating space where they can be fully themselves without every conversation becoming a teaching moment. The kid who knows you genuinely like them will tell you things, real things, because they trust that you like them enough to handle their reality without fixing it, lecturing about it, or turning it into a referendum on their character. Psychology research shows that when people perceive that their feelings matter and are taken seriously, they internalize the message that they, as individuals, are valued. You're teaching them they're safe with you, that they don't need to curate their thoughts or perform emotional competence to deserve your attention. The weird celebration. And when they do share their real selves with you, that's when the next part becomes critical. You know what builds "I genuinely like you" credibility? Celebrating the weird stuff, the bizarre achievements that won't make the Christmas letter. You memorized every Pokemon evolution? That is an incredible amount of data retention. You build a fort that violates several laws of physics. You're an engineering pioneer. You convinced your little brother he's allergic to vegetables? Ethically questionable, but strategically brilliant. When you celebrate what makes them uniquely them, not what makes them conventionally successful, you're saying their specific flavor of human is worth celebrating. This teaches them that their weirdness is an asset, that the things that make them different are the things that make them interesting. The expertise reversal. Now, here's something that completely flips the script and makes your kid feel genuinely valued in a way most parents never consider. You've been the know-it-all for their entire life, but when you let them teach you something, the entire dynamic shifts. Show me how this game works. Teach me that TikTok dance. Explain why this music doesn't sound like someone put a cat in a blender. Suddenly, they're the competent one. You're the student. They get to feel what it's like to be the smart one in the room. This isn't pretending to be stupid. It's acknowledging they know things you don't, that their knowledge has value. You're basically saying, you're interesting enough to be my teacher. Research on authoritative parenting shows that when parents respect a child's need to feel some ownership of their choices, kids develop more internal motivation and healthier coping skills. The time investment. But none of this works without one fundamental ingredient. Most parents don't realize they're missing it until it's too late. Liking someone requires knowing them, not their statistics, height, weight, grade level, shoe size, but their internal world, what makes them laugh until milk shoots out their nose, what they think about when they can't sleep. This knowledge comes from time, not quality time with scheduled activities, quantity time, boring time. The time where nothing special happens except proximity, where conversations meander from dinosaurs to death to whether hot dogs or sandwiches. Research shows that the more time parents spent with children, the more family warmth the children experienced. Closeness only develops with time. You're teaching them that they're worth choosing, that their company is something you actually enjoy. The mirror effect. And when you do all of this, when you put the phone down, show genuine enthusiasm, celebrate their weirdness, let them be the expert, and invest real time, something incredible happens. Kids who believe their parents genuinely like them develop this incredible ability. They start liking themselves, not in a narcissistic way, in a healthy, I'm worthy of appreciation way. When you laugh at their jokes, they learn they're funny. When you ask for their opinion, they learn they're worth listening to. When you choose to spend time with them, they learn they're worth choosing. You become the mirror that shows them their own likability. This compounds over time. The kid who knows they're liked becomes the teen who chooses better friends. The teen who chooses better friends becomes the adult who expects respect in relationships, all because someone they loved actually enjoyed their company. Longitudinal research found that parental warmth, love, support, acceptance significantly shapes self-esteem during childhood and adolescence. Another study found that parental trust and support establish adolescent self-esteem throughout their lifetime. You're teaching them their baseline setting, the one that says, I deserve to be liked, or I need to earn basic affection. The long game. Because here's what really matters, and what most parents don't realize until they're staring at an empty inbox on their birthday. Whether your kid thinks you like them determines your relationship forever. The adult who calls their parents regularly, their parents like them. The one who visits only on mandatory holidays, they feel tolerated, not enjoyed. Because eventually, the obligation part ends. They don't have to talk to you anymore. They'll only choose to if they believe you actually enjoy their company. This is the difference between getting a phone call on your birthday versus wondering why they never reach out. These small daily choices you're making right now, putting down the phone during the Gerald story, celebrating a weird fort, asking them to teach you their game, they're building your entire future relationship. Research examining parent-child relationships across 22 countries found strong associations between relationship quality and adult well-being. A decades-long study found that people who felt closer to their parents in childhood tended to feel more secure in all their relationships in adulthood. Your relationship with your adult child is being written right now, in those seemingly small moments. The plot twist. But here's the beautiful part that makes all this worth it. When kids feel genuinely liked by their parents, they become more likable, not because they're performing for approval, but because they're comfortable being themselves. You're not just raising a child. You're getting to know a future adult who might become your favorite person, but only if you genuinely like the kid first. So when your kid launches into another detailed explanation of their rock collection, remember, they're not asking you to care about rocks. They're asking if you care about them. If you like the person who likes rocks. Because once you start genuinely liking your kid, not just loving them, but actually liking them, parenting becomes less about managing and more about discovering, less about shaping and more about witnessing. That's the one thing every child wants from their parents, to be liked for exactly who they are. Gerald the sheep's backstory and all.